Sam Bankman-Fried taking the witness stand at his fraud trial. This is hours after the prosecution rested its case, but the jury wasn't in the room. It was actually a very unusual situation yesterday. The judge, I should say, sent the jurors home so he could decide which parts of Bankman-Fried's testimony would be admissible as evidence. Then Bankman-Fried effectively almost did a dry run of at least some of the testimony in front of the judge, so he could decide which parts he wants him to be able to be questioned about in front of the jury. Well, today, Bankman-Fried is expected to be back now on the witness stand with the jury, and we will see where the judge lands this morning on some of that testimony. Join us right now to talk about the case and so much more. Jay Clayton, former SEC chairman and a CNBC contributor. What did you make of this unusual sort of dry run dress rehearsal? I want to see what you're going to say before you say it in front of the jury. Very unusual.
Unusual, but I'll make a plug for the judge and the judicial system here, because what we have seen, you had that remarkable interview, I think it was less than a year ago, in the Bahamas, not knowing what is going on. And in less than a year, we're at the final stages of the trial here with what I would say is a very competent judge, incredibly experienced, a prosecutorial team, very competent, and a good defense lawyer. This is the way our judicial system should work. We're here, we're getting results in a very short amount of time. Now, what was going on yesterday? If you're a defense lawyer, your job is to sow doubt in the minds of the jurors. Doubt that there was really, in this case, really intent here.
Right.
What is a way to do that is to say that, on the intent to defraud, on the intent to use funds, that there was a reliance on others. And here, the reliance on the lawyers. That is a legitimate defense if you actually got legal advice about the actions you took.
Right.
I think what the judge is trying to assess here is there enough indicia that Sam really sought legal advice, that he understood he was being told by the lawyers that what he was doing was permissible, to allow that defense?
Well, it seems to me there's two issues. There's that, but also how much the lawyers knew, right? I mean, there's the secondary issue of and that's, I think, very specific. That was the question that the judge was asking yesterday, which is, if you go rob a bank and then you go talk to your lawyer and says, I need you to help me move this money from here to there. If you didn't tell the lawyer prior that the money was from the robbery, that you can't really then claim that that you relied on the lawyer. However, if the lawyer was involved with the original robbery, and in this case, that the suggestion is such, I think, if you believe that it's a robbery at all, and I know that's a question of this whole case, then would you allow the judge this legal piece of it in? The other thing, it seems to me, is that the lawyer that is in question, nobody seems to want to call for this case, because then you also then have to open up all sorts of other issues.
So neither side wants to call the lawyer?
Thus far, I don't think that the prosecutors clearly did not want to call the lawyer, and it doesn't appear that they want to call the lawyer.
We'll see. But you cast this in exactly the right way, which is, are there enough indicia? Are there enough questions? Did the lawyers actually know enough facts where there was real legal advice that you could rely on? And from what I saw in the transcript, there was not that type of engagement. You expect deep engagement with your lawyers on whether I can take my customers' funds and go do something completely different with it.
The only reason that door might open is that it appears that the lawyer was the one who wrote the terms of service with some of the language that appears to allow for wild things to happen.
Yeah, and then there were all sorts of, and there were, just reading the transcript, and there were all sorts of questions about whether Sam asked about that.
Right.
Yeah. What did the terms of service allow or not? And that was the back and forth about whether messages had disappeared.
Let me ask you this. I think the betting line, of course, is that he's going to be convicted at least of some of these counts, if not all of them. I imagine they will try to appeal the case. These cases are very, very difficult to appeal. But given how limited the defense has been, meaning the judge has limited this defense on a lot of different issues in a sort of, I think people would say, even a unique way. Do you think that is going to make this case a more appealable case? Well,
that's really the question that the judge is going to grapple with this morning, which is, is this something that, although, and you saw his skepticism away from the jury, which is, although this looks like a fairly speculative defense, should I allow it in, as a matter of, basically, I'd say good administration of justice.
Just before we run out of time, you could come back to this, but So Bitcoin was up 25% in like 4 days. And we had an SEC.
Yeah, that's where I was going next. Go ahead.
We had an SEC official on who said, it's crazy to me that we haven't already, that the SEC hasn't okayed a spot. But she also said.
Spot ETF.
Spot ETF for Bitcoin. But she also said, but these people, these other three people are never, basically said we're never going to do it. So people that the Rorschach, people saw, one side saw her say, it's insane that it hasn't been okay. The other side said, well, these people that I'm working on the serving with are not going to do it. Why was it up 25%, and is it still inevitable this year?
Yeah, well, I've said it's inevitable.
This year?
Look.
You should never give a time and a
You're right. I mean, I'm learning from you.
Yeah. Right. Don't give a time and a prediction.
No, the issues that were in doubt, is trading manipulative? And for a time period, people thought 90% of trading in Bitcoin was wash trading, ladder trading, or otherwise manipulative. Is there enough data about trading? Do we have enough data about overall supply and how it operates? All of those questions, in addition to what Bitcoin is classified as, which is a commodity, CFTC, SEC agree, they've all been decided. So the questions that were, what I would say, and so doubt in my mind. Look, I was not comfortable approving a Bitcoin ETF when those questions were open. But I think now they've been decided.
You would echo what she said, that it's totally illogical that it hasn't been done yet.
Right. I would echo what she said. And I don't know whether Bitcoin's going to be worth a lot or a little, but we're at a point where the market can decide.
But Jay, let me ask you this then.
That's interesting.
Are you of the view that what you're seeing here, because we have BlackRock on the docket and Fidelity and some of these big names, I think a lot of people seem to take great comfort in the idea that a BlackRock is the one asking, or Fidelity is the one asking, and that it's not, Grayscale, which is a smaller firm that's been asking for this.
FTX.
That somehow is a distinction, and that somehow the SEC is going to look upon them more favorably because of who they are or because they have relationships with. Like, how does that actually work in practice? Do you get this application from BlackRock and you go, geez, because it's coming from BlackRock, I should probably do this? Or do you say it doesn't matter that you're BlackRock or you're the lovely guy behind here who serves coffee outside?
Let's give the SEC staff some credit. That's not how they look at it. But what is the BlackRock, Fidelity, what is it indicia of? A deeper exploration of the issues that we just talked about. There has been back and forth dialogue with people who have applications, demonstrate that trading is efficacious, demonstrating that people can have the data, demonstrate that there's a way to hold this so that theft and the like are reduced.